What's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster back here on this Monday. It is Monday, September 18th, 2023. About 11:55 a.m. here, California time. Latest activity looks like a 2.2 in the Big Island, or on the Big Island of Hawaii. That's going to be this little spike right here on that seismograph station around Hot Caves on the Big Island of Hawaii. We'll get to earthquake activity here in just a little bit, covering solar weather events right now. Unfortunately for us here on the sunlit side of the Earth, we are not able to view this aurora currently, but this could change later tonight, of course, as it gets darker. But over there, across a good portion of the unlit side of the Earth, we're looking at a good solar storm kicking up right now. This is the arrival of CME that has kicked up. The KP index here has gone up probably a little bit higher than this right now, up around the 4 to 5 range. We are expecting a G2 class storm later. Could be happening right now or a little bit later tonight. But looking at the solar wind stream here, it looks like maybe this is it. How long it will last, it's questionable. We'll have to see if this lingers into the night for us here on this side of the planet. This rise, this dramatic rise in the speed, the density, temperature, along with the effects here to the BZ component of the interplanetary magnetic field, shows me, and also tells us here that that's the arrival of the CME. That did kick up. Well, it kicked up sometime, let's see when that was. It was a few hours ago, late last night, early this morning, I would say. And it's continuing, so we'll continue to watch that and see if the aurora stretch out overnight against this area here in the Canada region and maybe down into the northern tier states as well. We are expecting a G2 class solar storm, and that is forecasted. The detailed forecast right here shows the arrival time, at least here, according to the solarham.net site, between 6 and 12 UTC time. And the current UTC time right now is, what do we got, 18, almost 19? So this here looks like that'll be late tonight, early tomorrow morning when the brunt of this comes, unless we're seeing that right now. It's hard to say exactly. It could arrive early, you never know. The speed did kick up pretty drastically, so we'll see how it plays out. KP index maybe up around the 6 range or so. G2 class storm, maybe even above that. We'll see. All right, what else we got here for space weather? Well, that's about the only excitement going on. There's not a whole lot of flaring going on from these sunspots. Looking at the UV filter array here, shows a couple sunspots that are bright on the UV filter, but not seeing too much in the way of flaring currently, with the flare chart showing some very minimal C-flare activity, just very minimal. So looking at the magnetogram image of the sunspots, well, it looks like continues to show degrading complexity here with 3429. That's just about ready to disappear completely. The dynamics of it looks horrible, to say the least. It does not look all that complex. 3433 up here, I wouldn't write home about that one either. We do have a couple newer sunspots on the eastern limb that are developing or have developed, and hopefully these will get a little bit more complex here in their structure and give us some future flaring here in the coming days. Also, a newer sunspot here down here. It's unnamed. This was last night. This image is from last night. This is the most recent image, and it looks like this one's actually grown quite nicely since last night. So it's currently facing the Earth. Not for sure if we're going to see any major flaring. It's not set up dynamically for that, but could see a little bit of C-flare activity. And again, these newer ones around the eastern limb, looks like there's quite a few of them coming around the bend, so to speak. So we'll have to wait and see what they look like in the coming days ahead. All right, right now 95% chance for a C-flare, M-flare, 20 X-flare around the 1% range. And again, watch for those auroras tonight. If you're out there, of course, in the other side of the globe here, where it's dark, I'm sure most people are sleeping, but if you're a stargazer or aurora watcher, I'm sure those folks are up right now watching it. Looks pretty fancy, so to speak, on that side of the Earth. All right, earthquake activity. See what we got here over the last 24 hours. Did have some movement, larger scale activity here around the Taiwan region. The 6.3 earthquake coming in about 4 or 5 hours or so ago. Looks like that around the East China Sea, 183 kilometers deep. This area does see quite a bit of earthquake activity with this little subduction zone right here. With this deeper movement and its somewhat larger scale, we'll watch this area upstream here. That could play a part in adding some strain out here across the area. Kuril-Kamchatka Trench up here, a little bit of activity. I believe this is from one from yesterday and one from today. Around the Russia area in this little bend here, little plate boundary bend. Pretty dynamic kind of see something like that. Of course, the Earth is, the Earth is quite dynamic in terms of plate tectonics out here. All right, Alaska region, very typical. Not seeing any major activity. Quite a few ones and twos out there across the area of that southern Alaska region. Big Island, Hawaii, of course, that two-pointer coming in near Pahala, offshore, Kilauea Volcano. Let's get the latest information here on the Kilauea Volcano. Stand by here for a second while I pull up that information from the HVO, Kilauea Daily Update. This was put out. Yesterday. So it looks like the eruption has stopped completely. It only lasted for a few days. So this was put out yesterday. We noticed that declining lava coming out of that vent yesterday. Quite the dynamic flow that was coming out of it. Almost came to a complete stop yesterday, and we've seen it. But it looks like they've officially declared the eruption stopped and is unlikely to restart. No unusual activity has been noted across the rift zones. Goodness, that was quite the short eruption. So we'll have to watch this. Mildly inflationary most of the past 24 hours. See, we'll have to watch this and see if we get any swelling underneath the area of Kilauea Volcano. That's, we can see that on the tilt meter. Or if we start seeing further earthquakes forming around that area, that would indicate maybe a recharging of the magma system below. And then that could lead to further eruption. But that's interesting how they said that it's unlikely to restart. All right, we'll continue to watch that, though. All right, looking out across the eastern Pacific here, across California. Got a little swarming activity here outside the Lake Tahoe region. Quite a few ones in there, following a 3.4 from yesterday. Just outside the North Shore area, it looks like, of the Lake Tahoe area. Mount Shasta up here. I forgot to check this out. Looks like a little activity, a little small movement, ongoing activity, I would say. But here, the rest of California looks fairly quiet. There's a little bit of movement here across the San Francisco area near the zoo, outside the zoo. A little 1.4. But for the most part, goodness, California in general, aside from this activity up here, looks pretty quiet down here. No major swarms, no major unusual activity there across the California region. Yellowstone National Park, a handful of smaller quakes. Let's see what we got there at Yellowstone National Park here real quick. See if it's working. It's working. There's the signature of the 6.3 in Taiwan a few hours ago. That did show up pretty nicely across the seismograph stations here. See it just barely on this one as well. A little blip on this station. But as far as local seismicity goes and earthquake activity and anything else, it looks pretty quiet. A handful of smaller quakes here in the last few hours, but that's about it. Looking out across the rest of the country here, one earthquake on the Nebraska-Kansas border, 3.4. All right, anything else going on here across the globe? South America area, I'm not seeing anything major going on there. Of course, There's always going to be some activity right across the plate boundary. Couple 2s and 3s. 3.9 coming in here near the looks like the Costa Rica area possibly, and further movement up and down the Middle America Trench. Looks like Italy's seen some activity here. That earthquake coming in late last night, 5.1, shaking things up out here in the Italy region, just off the plate boundary here. Some further activity down in the South Sandwich Trench from yesterday. And a little bit of activity out here across the Mid-Indian Ridge. So we'll continue to watch this today. Nothing really filling in back here across the New Zealand area yet. Let's give a real quick glance here at the GeoNet servers. A couple smaller quakes, but again, you know, like any other plate boundary, you're going to always see those 1s and 2s and smaller quakes. But for the most part, activity is quiet. And this activity up here on the Oxford station, it looks like, is some type of environmental noise. Timothy kind of pointed this out yesterday. I'm not seeing this activity show up across any other nearby local stations, they're not separated by hundreds of miles. These are, you know, I don't know exactly where they're at in proximity to one another, but this is, I don't know, it looks like, doesn't look like weather. Otherwise that could show up here across the local stations as well. This is something very local, probably within 100 feet of the seismograph station that's giving this type of reading. It's most likely a tractor. It could be anything. Maybe a generator coming on. It's hard to say, but that's not earthquake activity because that would show up obviously across the seismograph stations that are local. All right, yeah, so watch for the storm activity here. Space weather. Storm activity. Well, for the most part, generally just some thunderstorm activity out here. Marginal risk for some severe weather, less than 2% for tornadoes. Main threat today is just going to be a little bit of wind and some small hail. Potentially moderate hail, I'd say, in that 5% Texas. Goodness, Texas can get some big hail. All right, folks, I'm out of here. Got a pretty busy day. There's another earthquake coming into the Lake Tahoe area. 2.1 as we speak. Very shallow earthquake. Well, this will probably get revised. I don't think it's been reviewed yet here. Automatic status. All right, folks, have a good one. We'll catch you guys back here a little bit later tonight. Take care.